Hi, welcome to Accelerated Thinking with me, Toby Henry, CEO Accelerator Solutions. I'm joined today by Nick Parmezikian. We're going to be talking about leadership and creativity. But first, before we dive into the questions, Nick, do you mind just giving a quick, brief background on yourself?
Well, thanks for having me, Toby. Nick Parmezikian spent 25 years building and scaling professional services businesses, essentially specialized in complex transformation for the financial services industry. And more recently, working with investors and their portfolio of technology companies to try to drive as much value out of those as possible.
Nice. So you've been in some big organizations, you've been in some smaller organizations, you've led organizations. And so what does leadership mean to you? If you had to boil it down, how would you define leadership?
I mean, I think there's so many models and so many examples of leaders, different leadership styles and types. I think for me, the one that resonated the most and the one that I've tried to embrace is this idea of servant leadership, where really your role, so my last role essentially for the last 2.5 years was CEO of $100 million business, 700 people, and the idea really to enable the rest of the organization to realize their potential, to be their better self in whatever they do, empowering people to do the right things and deliver a great experience for their customers and clients. So, yeah, I mean, I remember very clearly where I actually asked for our org chart to be reversed, and I wanted to see it as not me at the top, but me at the bottom and the rest of the pyramid, so almost like an inverse pyramid. For me, leadership is about how do you enable the rest of the organization, and more importantly, the people who are facing off to your clients and customers to do the best possible they can to try to deliver that value that our clients and customers are looking for.
That's really interesting, because I think sometimes when people get to that level of leadership, they see it as a bit of a I'm at the top kind of direction down. I think that servant leadership angle is really, really interesting. I think that I've never actually heard about inverting it like that, but I think it's something that I think more organizations should do. Particularly, we all have a customer, we all have a client, whether you're B2B or B2C, and really understanding what those people need and are doing and the skills that they need to both lead in their own parts of the organization but deliver to their customers. I think that's a really unique way to look at it. And I suppose when you were in those businesses, because you and I worked together for a little while, and I think one of the things that you do differently to a lot of leaders is when you think about the people at the face off into the customers, but also you challenge the organization to think differently. So when you've been in your leadership roles, and strategy and creativity and strategic thinking are terms that just get thrown around within any particular consulting environment, how would you bring that to life in an organization to make it real for your people?
I mean, I think first of all, giving people the freedom and the time to be creative, to creating an environment that feels safe for people to try things out, a culture that's accepting of novel ideas and differences and different opinions, creating a collaborative environment where you might have a great idea, but you're going to need other people to make it happen. So I don't think there's just one thing you can do right. I think it's a number of things that you should be assembling in order for you to be able to create sort of a culture of innovation, a culture of creativity in your organization. I think one of the things you said, which I think really resonates with me, is for many, many years, as you know, client experience, customer experience was the thing that everybody talked about. But more recently, I think there's been a realization, certainly with my clients, that you can't really deliver a great client or customer experience if you're not delivering an amazing employee experience.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so instead of trying to fix the client experience while you still have your people not necessarily having access to the tools or the support or the empowerment that they need to do their job properly, well, what we found is that most of that investment is going wasted. And instead, if you can sort of focus on enabling the people, again, as a leader, giving them the tools, the information, the communication, the connectivity they need to be able to do their job properly, then the experience that your clients and customers will get will be that much better.
Yes, that's such a great point, because I think so many organisations, they start with culture, but culture is a bit wishy-washy. It's values on a board somewhere that people can't relate to. They haven't taken the time to understand what culture actually means for the people, and then how that translates into the service that they then provide their customers. I think, to your point, customer service was this, and experience was this buzzword. How do we get the best customer experience? And the brands that flipped that, I think of Octopus Energy when I think of that, where they actually went into their call centres and they enabled those people to really understand the values. The customer was king. They dealt with people with respect. They were experts. They were given autonomy. That meant that the customer experience was fantastic. But they started with the employee experience and the employee engagement, but making it real. Like, it wasn't a buzzword, it wasn't values on a wall, it was lived and breathed. And the point you made about creating space, I suppose making it tangible. When you've done that, how do you create space? Because everyone's very busy, and as a leader, how do you make that something that people and the organisation make time for?
I mean, I think those can be, having time, especially when you can work remotely, so still finding opportunities to get people together, informally, having, social gatherings, and then, having conversations and bringing opportunities and problems to the team. As a CEO, as I'm sure you will relate, it can be very isolating because everybody comes to you with their problems and everybody relies on you to solve those problems for them. Whereas instead, I think if you can be, again, that sort of inclusive and a servant to your organization, and similarly actually ask for the rest of the organization to help you solve those problems and create an environment where transparency is key, where you are essentially talking to people like adults, not like children. And everybody then has the opportunity to bring their own ideas, their own creativity to the problem solving, making the organization that much greater. So I don't know whether it's like, diarizing, brainstorming sessions. I don't think that's what it is. I definitely think getting opportunities for people to get together, have conversations, sort of think of ideas, but then also sharing what is keeping you awake as a leader and asking for the rest of the organization to help you solve those problems, bringing their ingenuity to the conversation, I think is part of the answer.
Yeah, absolutely. I could talk about this for hours, and maybe we'll do a follow-up which is longer for, but I suppose one question I'd like to just close on, what's the best bit of leadership advice you've been given, and if you don't mind sharing who it was from?
I mean, it sounds very cliche, but for me, who, for a number of reasons, trying to fit into a mold, thinking that there was only one leadership model and one sort of archetype when it comes to leaders. When I was told, learn to be yourself, and actually what that means is actually you've got to know who you are to be able to bring who you are to your role as a leader. I think it was a really great advice. Now, it's a journey. I don't think you can necessarily switch the flick overnight. And I can't really, there are a number of leaders I work for who gave me that consistent set of advice because I had this internal battle between who I was and who I thought I should be, and continuously sort of, wearing different masks depending on the situations, until the time where I decided to, be who I am and bring all of my colors to my roles, and from that point on, I think that actually played in my favor.
Yes, it's that leadership authenticity, but knowing who you are and knowing how it then translates, because I really hate the expression bring your whole self to work. Sometimes you don't, but not having to wear a mask either is really important, and leading with authenticity flows down through all those things. It's very easy to tell when someone's being inauthentic, particularly in a leadership position. So I think that's, whoever gave it to you or whether it was over a period of time, so I think you are 100% right, this is a journey,
Yeah.
and constantly evolving your leadership style but staying authentic to yourself is so important. Great advice.
I think what I love about what you do now in your organization is, helping organizations and leaders to find their authentic self and create authentic cultures. I think that's so important, especially at a time where technology is going to do a lot of what we would be historically doing as humans. So, creating human environments and cultures for people to thrive is going to be that much more important. I feel.
Yeah, what a great way to finish. We will do a follow-up on the impact of AI and what does that mean for people and culture and services. It's a super interesting topic and super topical at the moment. Big thanks to Nick for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Accelerated Thinking, and we'll speak to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.